Good morning, guys. How's it going? Now I know summer's right around the corner, so a lot of people are on their diets and trying to lose a little bit of weight. And sometimes when you're on like a low carb diet, you get that craving for some bread, right? So I wanted to take a look at a bunch of different kinds of like flatbreads and tortillas that are really popular because I know that's a great way to kind of quash those cravings without dipping into your carb count too high. I wanted to take a look at a bunch of different kinds of low carb options and see what was really good and what's out there. So the first one we're going to take a look at is this stuff called Lavish bread from a company called Joseph's, and they specialize in making like Middle Eastern breads, like pita breads. I'm actually going to check out their pita breads and their wraps a little bit later. And you see there are these big, gigantic, like rectangular pieces of bread. One serving is 60 calories, and one serving is only half of one of these, so you gotta keep that in mind sometimes. But one serving, 60 calories, you got 8 grams of carbohydrate, 4 of those are fiber, so that's 4 grams of effective carbs per serving, and 6 grams of protein. And I'll try to get some way to get the macros up on the screen or something like that so we know what we're actually looking at. There's a lot of ways you can actually use Lavish. This is what it looks like. You can tear it up, use it as a dipping sauce. You might be able to use this as like a flatbread to make like a pizza or something on top of it, bake a pizza. But when I see this, I think it would make really great pinwheel sandwiches. So I'm gonna try that out. Alright, so I noticed that when I was making the sandwich, it was falling apart a little bit. Like it didn't hold together super well. So it felt like it probably doesn't have as much gluten as regular Lavish bread would have. So it was a little bit delicate, a little bit finicky in that way. The taste was interesting. It's almost feels like it's dusted with some flour or something on top of it. Maybe some cornstarch. It does have a pretty good analog taste to what you'd expect from some bread without being super heavy on the calories. Now, one serving of this does have 280 milligrams of sodium, which is a pretty good amount. Obviously, I don't think it's too bad because I keep on eating it. Oh yeah. Joseph's Lavish bread. I think for the taste, I'd give it a good 7 out of 10. For the structural integrity, it gets like a 3 or 4 out of 10. Really not that great for making sandwiches with. But if you wanted to use this, let's say this is just some tahini. If you wanted to use this to just dip, well, I think that would be a pretty good option. Moving on to number 2. This is kind of the same idea. These are some coconut meat wraps that I've seen popping up on the market from time to time. These seem to be getting a little bit more popular in like the paleo crowd, things like that. And the ingredients list is young coconut, that's the coconut meat and the water, and Himalayan salt, and that's it. So the macros on this one wrap, one entire wrap, this isn't quite as big, is again 60 grams, 8 grams of carbohydrate, less than 1 gram of fiber. So all of those carbs are pretty much going to be effective carbs, and 0 grams of protein. It does have a pretty good amount of potassium with 120 milligrams and significantly less sodium at 160 milligrams. So I'm going to give this a shot, see how it works. It's kind of hard to just pull one of these things out. There we go. Okay, immediately off the bat, the texture feels a little bit rubbery. I don't know how that's gonna work, but we'll see. So let's try it. Cheers. Okay, that one is definitely not bread. It doesn't taste a bit like bread, nothing like it. A pretty good strong coconut flavor to it, so if you like coconut, you might dig some of these coconut wraps. Structurally, it did hold together a lot better than that Joseph's Lavish bread. I could see this being used for like spring roll wraps, or maybe even sushi wraps. I don't know about using it day to day to make sandwiches and wraps and things like that though. So if you like coconut, might give this one a shot. I'm gonna give it maybe a 5 out of 10 for flavor. Like I said, I don't think it will quash those starch and carb and bread cravings that people on low carb diets sometimes get. But, you know, I think it has its place. Low calorie, low sodium, lots of healthy fats in there, so not bad. So like I said, 5 out of 10 for flavor, but I'm gonna give it a good 7 out of 10 for staying together. I could see a lot of good applications for this. All right, I'm changing up the location a little bit just so I can change it up a little bit. So next up, I'm going to try another of Joseph's. This is the Joseph's Pita bread. So we'll see how these go. Well, not a bad size. Pretty compact pita. One of these pouches is 70 calories, not too bad, with 10 grams of carbohydrate, and 4 of those come from fiber, and 6 grams of protein again. So I've noticed with a lot of these low carb breads, you tend to get a lot of protein. So we'll see how this goes. Now with pita bread, the way I usually eat it is to break it in half and use it as a pouch. So I'm gonna try filling up this guy. Here, I've got some guacamole that I'm gonna toss in here. Now if this was a real pita, I think I'd probably use some tzatziki sauce and some ground meat, some beef or some lamb or something like that. But you know, go with what you got. Let's see how this holds up. Just like with the Joseph's Lavish bread, I've noticed that this has a little bit of a dusting on the outside of it. So it feels almost like it's dusted with some cornstarch or something along those lines. But the flavor is pretty good. It's a little bit different from the Lavish bread. But it does still give you that kind of bready mouthfeel and that nice taste that you want. It is pretty high in sodium, 290 milligrams per serving. It's a little bit delicate though, just like the Lavish bread. So I think this, if you wanted to really stuff a lot of stuff in here, you'd probably run into some trouble. I'm gonna say it's, again, maybe a 4 out of 10 for structural integrity. But the flavor, just trying some of the bread by itself, the flavor, just like the other Joseph's bread, it's pretty nice. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10 for flavor. Next up, another pita bread. This is from a company called, I have no idea how to pronounce it, Toph. Double wrapped. These are slightly smaller than Joseph's, so these feel pretty substantial. One of these is 100 calories, so not as low calories as some of the other options. It has 16 grams of carbohydrate, 7 of those is fiber, so it's 9 grams of effective carb, not quite as low. 8 grams of protein though, so if you're looking to get your protein from your bread, well, it might be a good option. This actually does feel a lot more substantial though. It's really thick, really fluffy. So I'm gonna try this just as like a dipping bread with some of this tahini. A lot of this seems to be Middle East themed, so why the heck not? Go with some tahini. Only a little bit left in this jar. Gotta reach to the very bottom. So the texture of this bread is really pretty chewy. It looks like it's primarily just regular wheat flour with a little bit of supplemental protein isolates and some fiber isolates. So it really does just taste like fortified bread with a couple of things added to it. It really holds together very well, so I'm going to give this one a good 7 out of 10 for structural integrity. Like, I think you could really pack a lot of stuff into something like this. For flavor, this is a little bit less salt, a little bit less sodium, so you don't get quite as much of that mouthfeel as you get with some of the other breads. I've noticed that a lot of low-carb breads rely on putting a lot of salt in there to give it a added flavor. This is only 125 milligrams per serving, so not as much flavor, so I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 for flavor. So not disastrous, but not the best flavor out there. Next up is this flat out bread. These are often used for making wraps and the like, so I'm going to see how they work just as like a dipping bread though. Kind of a weird shape. I could really see using this to put some tomato sauce and some cheese on top and baking it and making yourself a little low-carb pizza. I think that would be an awesome thing to try, but I'm doing this all in real time, so I'm not going to take the time to make myself a pizza in the middle of this. So one of these guys, again, we're back up with quite a bit of sodium, 250 milligrams, 14 grams of carbs with 8 grams of fiber, so quite a bit of fiber in these guys. It's a little bit stretchy, a little bit spongy. I feel like this could hold up to a good amount of stuff being wrapped into it. So we'll try this. Get some cheese in there, fish in there. Yeah, that held up pretty well. Got some stuff coming out the bottom, but that's what happens when you have a wrap. Well, it has a little bit of a strange flavor to it. It's not quite what I would expect from a bread product. It isn't outright offensive or bad or anything, but it does have, it's a flavor that I'm finding hard to identify. I've noticed that they have a little bit of, I've noticed that this is a yeast bread, so it might be that that's given it a little bit of funkiness. You might give it a shot. I don't want to say that it's really funky or bad or anything like that, but it does taste a little bit different. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for flavor. But it really did hold together pretty well when I crammed a lot of stuff in there. So we'll give it a good 7 out of 10 for structural integrity. All right, the third and final entry from Joseph's is their low-carb tortillas. It's a little bit small. I could see making a small burrito or a small taco with something like this. So one of these guys is 80 calories with 12 grams of carbohydrate and 5 grams of fiber, so it's 7 grams of effective carbs. I don't know why they say 8 grams effective carbs on the front of it when they have their little diagram on the back of it, which shows the math right there. It's 12 minus 5 equals 7, and yet they have 8 net carb all over the place. 7 grams of protein, so good, another good source of protein. So one of the things that I like to do with these flatbreads is to tear them up and kind of use them as use them with some kind of dip or something along those lines. So there's a bit of a different taste to these as well. Again, it's not like it's offensive or particularly bad. I noticed that this uses a little bit of sesame seed flour, so I'm wondering if that's what I'm tasting in there. You see, even though I've wrapped this up really good, it still holds its form pretty well, so I think that it would make a great wrap for some low-carb burritos or low-carb tacos. The flavor, even though it doesn't taste a whole lot like bread, I actually like the flavor of that quite a bit. It's a little bit different from usual. So we'll give it a 7 out of 10 for flavor and a 7 out of 10 for structural integrity. That was pretty good. So I think Joseph's, the wraps, really hit it out of the park. Next up, these are some that I had to order online called Maria and Ricardo's fiber-rich, naturally delicious whole wheat tortillas. Now, of everything that I'm trying, these are the lowest calorie per serving, just 45 calories per serving, with 10 grams of carbohydrate and 7 grams of fiber. So it actually has a very low amount of flour in it. It's primarily water, wheat fiber, and wheat gluten. So that's just like the fiber and the protein from wheat. The downside is that they are quite small, so not very big at all. I think you'd have to make some really small mini tacos or something using these guys. But they do hold their form pretty well, just like the Joseph's. They're not too crumbly. They've got a good stretch, a good chew. Peanut butter is my favorite condiment. You can really tell that these are very low in salt, very low in sodium. Only 130 milligrams per serving. So you don't get a lot of that mouthfeel like you'd get, like I mentioned before. So the flavor is going to be, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 for flavor. It really does have that good bread flavor and feel to it, even though it is a little bit low on the salt. So if you added some salty condiments like mustard or just threw some salt on it, I'm sure it'd be great. Otherwise, very unspectacular flavor, which is actually, ironically, what we're going for here. Because it is made out of wheat products, it really does taste like regular wheat bread or wheat tortillas. So, 6 out of 10 for flavor, and for the structural integrity, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think it would hold up pretty well if you tried to wrap, use it as a burrito or a wrap or something like that. Now, last up for today, going back to Toph to try out their wraps. Now these are low carb and low sodium. So one of these guys is 100 calories. So again, a little bit higher on the calorie side, with 16 grams of carbohydrate, and 7 of those are fiber. So it's 9 grams effective carbs and 8 grams of protein. That's a good sized wrap. I think you could put a lot of stuff into there. I'm gonna try this out real quick. Going back to the Mediterranean. Got this pile of spinach. Let's see how well this works. Look at that, it's bursting. And it's still holding together. That is excellent. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say 8 out of 10 for structural integrity. This thing is holding together really well. Just like the other low sodium options, very indistinct flavor. Not really, it really just kind of gets out of the way and you taste the stuff that's inside of it. So for flavor, let's see, if I was gonna eat this just by itself, it is a little bit chewy, a little bit gummy. For the flavor, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10, but man, you could cram a whole lot of stuff in here. So there you go. Now, you know, I really don't like wasting food. So one thing I do have to do is finish off as much of this as possible right here and right now. And I can't let all these scraps go to waste. Now, some of you may be wondering, what the heck is with all the spinach? And and another YouTuber, you might have seen some of his stuff, Travis S., is on a mission to make vegetables cool again. And I think that's an excellent idea. I love vegetables and I think everyone should eat a little bit more of them. I also love peanut butter. But I think plenty of people eat plenty of peanut butter, and I also think that more people need to eat more vegetables. Because you know, vegetables are really tasty. I love green foods, especially things like guacamole. Really can't go wrong with stuff like that. noticed that the Joseph's breads were all going to be expiring really soon. So obviously that means that I need to eat it right here and right now. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. I think I've quashed my cravings for bread foods for now. One of the great things about those low-carb tortilla options One of the great things about those low-carb tortilla, flatbread, wrap, pita bread options is that you can eat more than one without feeling too guilty. Probably not 3 packages, but there you go. I am so full of fiber now. I think I've had enough fiber for about a month. And hey guys, keep a lookout for part number 2 when I take a look at a bunch of other brands and a bunch of other varieties of low-carb breads. So thanks. Peace out.